On this video, we're talking with Dr. Juliet Koch about some of the medical issues that might be impacting fertility. So thank you for joining us.
No worries.
And I just want to find out from you, what are the most common things that may be impacting someone medically?
I think when you look at people who are trying to conceive and having troubles, there are sort of three groups. So there's people where there's mostly a female factor going on, something like endometriosis, maybe not ovulating, maybe problems with sort of egg quality or age. Sometimes there's a male factor that makes up about a third, where there's a problem with sperm. And then there's another group where it's unexplained, where we don't know exactly what the issue is, but it's often a subtle issue, which could be affecting both partners.
Okay. Yeah. And what if one person is feeling very guilty because they're the reason that this is going on? What advice would you have to help them lift that shame and guilt?
Look, infertility is a huge area of guilt and shame. It's sort of the big unspoken word. One of the hardest things for people is that they don't want to talk about it. When you have other medical problems like cancer or, something really serious, you can talk to people and get support. And infertility is one of those things that's a bit like sometimes mental health has been in the past, where you are ashamed of it and don't want to speak about it. And that causes a whole lot of problems. And that's something I think we really need to change. So I think when you're talking to people about the problem, it's important to sort of say that making a baby is about two people. It is always an issue as a couple, and supporting each other is really important and not putting blame. But people often want to find a cause. So it's this funny thing where they really want to know why, but then when they know why, it creates that terrible feeling of shame and a sense of sort of grief and loss as well.
And what about the gender roles? Because I would imagine as a woman or a man, if it's something to do with you that's stopping you getting pregnant, how do we deal with that masculine, feminine roles that we're made to procreate?
I think that's really major. I think it's something really basic instinct in all of us, that men and women, and I don't think it's different for either. I think both men and women, if faced with a problem with their fertility, have a huge sense of a loss of ego, particularly for men. And I think that's hardly ever spoken about. At least women talk to each other. But men, pretty much taboo, not something they're going to bring up at the pub and get support around, mate, I don't have any sperm. So, for men, it's actually even harder. And virility and ability to conceive and stuff is a really powerful part of a man's ego. And so it's something we do really need to be very sensitive about. Partners have to be very supportive, and sometimes men do really fall apart and need a lot of support. And I think, it's just a really difficult area, and something that we need to, as a community, talk more about and offer more support around.
What about also the psychological issues? Because if someone is going to be struggling, I imagine there are certain factors that could be in playing that way. Right. Is there something that you feel that might stop the process, or something that people can do?
I think that, when you're struggling on an emotional level, the biggest thing that falls off probably is your sex life. The first thing that happens when you're not feeling good about yourself is you're less sexually sort of aware and probably sexually confident. Confident, too. Absolutely. Yeah. Confident is the word. And so without sex, it's very hard to get pregnant. So it's all, linked, and that psychology is really vital.
What about stress and anxiety? Does that impact getting pregnant?
Again, I think it impacts through confidence and having sex, but not actually that the stress or the anxiety makes you infertile. Like, I don't think it affects egg quality or sperm quality, but I think stress and anxiety affect how often you do have sex. And so, when you look at stress and anxiety, you can look at populations who've been severely affected. So if you look at populations in war and famine, their fertility rates go up.
So still getting pregnant under those circumstances.
Probably because there is a sense of, we need to procreate. We're under attack, we're under stress as a group, as a human group, and people tend to have more sex and have more children. So stress in itself, I don't think necessarily means infertility. Does that make sense?
So maybe
it's
if
complicated.
We had sex as a solution to being stressed.
Absolutely. That could work.
Then that might help the issue.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I think
No
that there's a
problem.
lot of really useful information in there, and hopefully couples can be a little bit more supportive of each other and just
Hope so.
aware of some of the issues that are going on that they might not have been before.
Exactly.
Thank you.
No worries.